Okay. This first section is going to be me glazing about this season's trailer right now, because I can't properly express how amazing it is. So, if you want to get straight into a proper intro and analysis of the Season 6 egos, then go here to this timestamp. Thank you. Anyways, holy shit, that trailer was so peak. So much better than I have ever thought it would be. It's the same fucking Project Moon loop of a Kanto coming out, the fans are hyped about it, and say that it doesn't get any better than it does, and later, it does, and the loop just resets with so much peak. I love it. But that's not all. The Heisho IDs are cool as hell. Like, the both of them are so cool with their snake hands. But not only the IDs, the egos as well are cool. Now, Retchie and Maggots, they're cool, but we barely get to see them as much, so I can't really talk about them too much. But the Tears of the Tarnished Blood Sinclair on Hanlu ego are so fucking cool. I love the wings that Sinclair has. I love the clothing that Hanlu wears. I love practically everything about them. Hell, Hanlu's ego mechanic of being killed to activate its true form is so cool. I fucking love it. And man, I can't wait for future seasons to potentially top those egos as well. And I also can't wait for Kanto 8's story as well. So, praise Project Moon. God damn. Praise Project Moon. Anyways, now that the glazing is over, let's actually talk about the actual topic of the video. Hi, I'm Crow. Welcome to, or welcome back to the Abnormality Room. And whoo boy was that trailer amazing. With some new and old abnormalities to talk about for this season, which are So That No One Will Cry, Centipede Apostle, and the Dragon Abnormality in the Tears of the Tarnished Blood ego, which, again, is fucking amazing. And no, even after that segment, I will not stop glazing Project Moon. Now, did I expect new abnormalities? Yes I did. But I am surprised still when we are bringing in an old abnormality with a new ego. That's cool. And plus, the dragon is still cool. Take a shot every time I say cool. So anyways, introductions aside, let's start with T-04-11-20 is an alright looking tattooed class abnormality. I mean, design wise, it's just a bunch of logs and wood stuck together to make a wooden doll covered in talismans, stuck with glue. Overall, the design is fine, not too special, but hey, it's alright looking. You don't need such a cool look to be cool abnormality, which is what I originally thought until Don Quixote's ego was revealed, which gave it a sort of charming look that this doll with a long as fuck name lacks in both the ego and corrosion. So yeah, not the worst design in the world, so whatever. But in regards to the name, So That No One Will Cry, which first of all, very long name. Originally, I thought it was for dramatic effect and for it to be more special when it really wasn't. Let's be real here. At first glance, this abnormality is not that special. Like, come on, you know? But if you look a little deeper into what it represents, its law name and talisman usage makes a lot more sense. In the mirror dungeon, we first meet it in this room. A room covered in talismans, some candles, and the abnormality. There, you can do one of three things, all of which require you to remove the talismans. You can either remove the talismans on the abnormality, in the walls of the room, or all of them entirely. Doing the first option will lead to the abnormality to kneel as you take its talismans. Whether it's begging you not to take it, or as a gesture of gratitude, you won't know for now. I'll explain what this means in a bit, along with the talismans, after talking about the choices. You can also try to remove the talismans from the room, which, if successful, the doll becomes liberated from a binding force and gives you a gift. Now, you can stop, but that'll turn the talismans into sticky blood slipping between your fingers. Same goes for if you fail to check. The doll also just stands there, doing nothing but make strange noises. You can also remove all of the talismans, which will make it anxious and will feel like it'll have to fight you to stop what you're doing. Okay, now that we're done with that, let's talk about all that. I want to start by quickly explaining the talismans and its meaning. So, firstly, in Korea, there is a common tradition named Butchok. Hopefully I didn't butcher the name. And in said tradition, many talismans are used to bring luck and repel evil. Now, how does that apply towards the abnormality? Well, in two ways. Firstly, in the Kanto 4 dungeon, we meet it after talking about the ID tags that T-Corp were using. Originally, they were meant for finding children. They are now used to tag workers to prevent them from leaving their work, which presents a double double meaning of either begging to not get rid of them or have gratitude for said action. Hell, the double meaning persists as well when removing all of the talismans, since the abnormality grows anxious as you remove them, whether it's from either being found out by the higher-ups or being lost as a child. Interesting, isn't it? The other way is in its application of talismans on others and how they weaken itself and strengthen the sinners. Because you see, Heathcliff says that having these talismans are good, since it feels like you're a tad bit more powerful, but having too much of it will lead to you being a bit weak and exhausted, but when placed back on the abnormality, it'll only become weaker. Now, why is that? Well, outside from being a representation of the tags, and also Canto 4 in general, it's because it is the nature of the talismans, both in general and on the abnormality. As said before, talismans are used to repel evil, and something minor to mention, but there is a skull inside the wooden shell, which could suggest that this thing is possibly a curse or a demon, but whatever it is being limited by these talismans. So outside of Canto 4's double meaning, the abnormality, to me at least, also represents responsibility by taking evil from others. Now, to explain that thought process, we'll have to talk about the egos. The red sheet egos, seen as an ego suit worn by Sinclair, and an actual ego used by Dawn. These egos show why I think the abnormality also represents this responsibility. Dawn's is obvious. She takes responsibility for the quote-unquote evil that their siblings do. It chains her down, but tries to spread her responsibility to others, just like how the abnormality spreads the talismans to others. Though the ego can either be lust because of the spreading of that responsibility in the form of talismans, or gluttony because of her selfish want to have these talismans, these curses on her, to me at least. We don't have the dialogue to support that, but I'm willing to bet on that. Now Sinclair, I guess, explains a lot of the abnormality's thoughts and his own, since the ID story explains that they synchronize with each other very well, to the point that the suit is maybe corrupting him. Now, with that in mind, Sinclair likes to view their talismans as curses that he should place upon himself so that no one will cry. Anyways, to summarize, the abnormality has a lot of meanings, which can be either taken from the game as a double meaning, or if you want the broader sense of it all, responsibility, which all comes back to its name so that no one will cry, by taking in the curses of others and placing them onto themselves. And it's still a stupid name, by the way, I'll be honest. Now that we're done with that, let's move on to this freak. The Centipede Apostle is an unclassified abnormality, as of yet, that will recently be expanded on as time moves on. So right now, it is all partially speculation, since a lot of the information comes from the Mirror Dungeon and also real-world references. So, the Centipede Apostle is a giant, disgusting centipede covered in smaller centipedes and is wearing a cloth that reeks of rotten bodies, like it was used to dress a corpse, which we'll explain that in a little bit more detail, since it's not just because it's disgusting. Along with the dirty cloth, it also has a few booklets, which are described to be prayer books that hang along its body. The Mirror Dungeon leaves itself off saying, what does it believe in, and what does it pray for? Because you see, religion is the whole point of this abnormality, specifically a blind and unquestionable faith, which is definitely shown in the choices made in this event. You can do one of two things in this event. Either ask the big multi-legged bug that what it believes in, which causes it to lash out in anger. Dante explains why it did that perfectly. Faith simply works as a secure belief. Questioning its substance may not have been something we should have done. Essentially, it doesn't like its faith being questioned, like some religious extremist, even if it's just a question of curiosity. The other choice that you can do is to take one of the prayer books, and if successful, you get the Red Order Ego Gift, and the abnormality doesn't give a shit. It's so deeply immersed that it doesn't notice approach it and take the booklet at all, since its faith is so deep that it sees these books as useless to him now, that all its teachings, doctrines, and beliefs are ingrained so deep into its mind. But it still prefers to have them, since it doesn't really like them being stolen. It's their religion book, but it doesn't attack them. Maybe because it understands why they would take its books, maybe. But now that we're done with the Mirror Dungeon, let's dig in a bit deeper. Firstly, why a centipede? Well, in short, it's because that it is likely a representation of impurity, or something like that. Something rotten, if we want to talk on the broad sense. And speaking of rot, let's talk about zombies, or specifically named the Jianshi. The Jianshi are dead officials turned into zombies, which can be recognized by this big, long talisman at their head. God, talismans are everywhere, huh? So, essentially, the Centipede Apostle is a representation of blind faith, a faith so extreme that even after death and rotten, the Centipede Apostle will still believe in its doctrines. Now, how does that relate with the 100-foot Death Maggot ego that Ishmael has? Well, if you look at the certain trends with her and the ego, obsession, faith, I mean, come on. Blind faith, or the feeling of being right in everything that she believes in, is basically a common theme that a lot of her ego have. Or just two, I guess. But still, that could also mean that the sin can be wrath. Not just because the gift was wrath, but because of the anger of being questioned, I think. I guess to truly understand what the ego represents to the characters, we have to see the dialogue, so... oh well. Same goes for Dawn, by the way, as mentioned before. My assumption of what the red sheet is for her is still an assumption. But the ego that we do have dialogue for is the Hanlu and Sinclair ego. Okay. I might as well say it now and not forget it later. From now on, I should assume that any ego that isn't in Walpurgis are new and not from Lobotomy Corporation, and to not make the same mistake from now on. Because hoo boy, man was I wrong about this prediction. Let's be honest, the last ego that came out that was not in Walpurgis and was from Lobotomy Corporation was... what? Red Eyes? God, that was so long ago. But anyways, now that we're done with this quote-unquote apology, I probably needed a ukulele to make that more convincing, but whatever. Let's actually start talking about the abnormality. So, this ego's abnormality, named Tears of the Tarnished Blood, which, first of all, what a name, and secondly, it's very fucking cool. And sure, we don't see its full body, but it's not really wrong to say that this is probably the biggest abnormality to ever exist in all of the Project Moon games. The Yin and Yang Dragon still exists though, but I do really believe that this abnormality is the biggest abnormality to ever exist as of right now. But until the actual abnormality is revealed though, we'll just have to wait in order to know its actual size. But we can guess that it is colossal, since you can see some of its body in the skies, which is very menacing, by the way. Now, as for what it represents, it's quite simple, I'd say. It's self-sacrifice. But if you want the overall picture, it's most likely punishment from the heavens to the ground, and the acceptance of said punishment. But potentially as a result, others will be affected by it, whether they wanted that or not. Whether I'm right or wrong, we'll see, but for now, this is what I got from the egos. And speaking of which, let's talk about them. So, the interesting thing about these egos is how similar yet different the both of them are, such as the wings. Sinclair has big and sharp wings, while Hanlu has small and stubby wings. Sinclair has a small tail, Hanlu, you can't even find the damn thing. The clothing as well. The both of them are similar looking, but Hanlu's is so much bigger than Sinclair's. You get the picture. The both of them are similar as well in terms of theming, with the only difference being is that Hanlu fully accepts it, so if we're going by sin, maybe gloom. Actually, wait a minute, no, the ego was shown to be gluttony. Why the hell? Why is that the case? Do tell me what you think though, I'm intrigued. And subscribe as well, cause why not? Now, Sinclair, on the other hand, somewhat does, somewhat doesn't, I'd say. If that's the case, then maybe wrath. I don't know. I feel like these differences stem from how the both of them see emotions and how they differ in responses to these emotions, I guess. With the corrosion, it's maybe having these emotions lash out, I guess. But then again, that's all corrosions in general, so maybe it's more specific. Oh well, very cool abnormality that I'd like to see later down the line when we can. Anyways, yeah, I hope this video comes out today, or at least a few hours before Canto 8 releases. It'll be cool that way. Anyways, hope that Canto 8 Part 1 is going to be a good introduction into Hanlu's life before Limbus Company, which I might record, I don't know. I've done Canto 7, so maybe I'll do the same for Canto 8 as well. Maybe. We'll see. So for now though, bye.